Oh wow, a prayer book. That's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of that other prayer book. A farming relic? That's awesome. Kind of reminds me of that other farming relic. Wait, but what's that? Equilibrium? What are you doing here? Though I might be one. It doesn't take a genius to match up Arcane Grimoire to Ruinous Powers, and Farmer's Fortune and Overgrown literally have the same icon, just colored differently. So seeing that both of these are in the same tier, this leads me to believe that Equilibrium will have something that'll be matched in Raging Echoes, like maybe a blue flavored Equilibrium. Paid a JMod $10 to give me all the relic files, and that's how I got this one. They also haven't announced the Hawk Tour and the new Echo Clown, but I'll make separate videos on those. Anyway, let's do a little bit of theory crafting. What would a new Equilibrium even do? How would they give it that Raging Echoes twist? Farmer's Fortune patches grew instantly and never caught diseases. A meta with it was to go to Corinne and do Tithe Farm, and you just got a billion XP. Like, it was so fast. But Overgrown is sort of going the opposite. You put your seeds into a vault and it just keeps replanting and harvesting it for you, so you can go off and do other things. It's built around you not being by your patches, like, at all. Another one to look at would be last year's fire sale, which made almost every shop's items be free and automatically noted. Now, those items wouldn't buy anything for gold, but you could effectively make your own gold by buying whatever you wanted and then high alching it. And then this year's Golden God, things in the shop are not free at all. This has nothing to do with shops. What it does do, though, is generate money for you to buy things from the shop, which you can then grab to generate more money. Whenever you unlock this, high alchemy and low alchemy have no level requirements or rune cost. The items give a bonus gold, and it has a 65% chance to not be consumed when the spell is cast. There's a big calculator that shows the returns and what's like the best bang for buck to be buying. But the TLDR on Golden God is basically most things that you can buy from the shop, you're at least going to profit off of because of the 65% chance. You're almost always getting a return on investment. And the biggest thing that I didn't even mention is this thing automatically alks for you. You go ahead and set it up on a stack of items and it just keeps casting it over and over and over. Like, you can keep walking and do other actions and it doesn't cancel it. So again, instead of this really involved, I gotta get all my money this way or my XP this way, they've kind of shifted it over to this more longer stretch where you just aren't doing anything at all. You're very hands off. You kind of set it and forget it. So if I had to make any sort of guess for what kind of changes they could do to Equilibrium this year, I think it would be something like that, some sort of passive effect where while you're doing other things, you're still somehow generating XP. But how would I twist the existing understanding of that? Well, let's look at it first. Each time the player gains experience, they will gain additional experience equal to 10% of the player's total level, or 20% for the player's lowest level skill. I think that last part is maybe where things would come into play. But I took to Reddit and to Discord to ask you what you thought an Equilibrium follow-up could be, and I got some interesting responses. A common thing I've seen is, what if Equilibrium auto-trains your lowest skill? Whenever you're out doing something else and getting XP, what if you're somehow contributing to your lowest skill, Tears of Guthix style? I do think that sort of fits in line with the theming of those two relics that I talked about earlier, Golden God and Overgrown, where it's like you can go out and do something else and you're still getting some XP and other things. But I have no idea how they would ever balance that. I don't think it would, that same 10% a total level while you're doing something else. There's just a lot of things that you can do very quickly to get that to proc. And I feel like you'd have to do some really complicated math to try to like scale it to make it make sense. And I don't think that they're going to want to do that. I mean, Equilibrium on paper is honestly one of the most simple skills there is. Every time you gain XP, you get additional XP equal to 10% of your total level. Like, that's pretty simple. I have 2k total level. I get 200 XP. That's it. You just do one math thing real quick. But like they said, I would love to just do Bandos and get my rune crafting up. So, you know, if Jagex came to me and asked me if I wanted it, they pitched me or had me pitch to them, I'd be on board. Yeah, sure, whatever. You guys can make it work. You can run the numbers. And the second one is more so a pitch to kind of fix that complicated math. How do you balance things like getting XP in room crafting versus getting XP in fire making? Scaling those two kind of things. You kind of don't want them to be the exact same rates because the entire state of the rest of the game says, hey, these are two very different things. Every other activity in the game is saying, hey, this is the XP rate. We kind of follow along that. And the other one would just kind of break that a little bit. But this is going more the trickster route. Give trickster boots that also grant XP from running around. So having some sort of limited scope, and you have to attach an item to yourself to actually hone in on what you're doing. I don't know exactly what skills this would cover if we're going again for the lowest skill, or if there's a way to toggle it and then it has some sort of scaling based upon that, or what. I do think it's interesting to compare it to Trickster because those boots are cool and they're good and you can get pretty far with them, but it's also not OP. I don't think anyone says, oh my gosh, I got 200 mil agility XP. Like, there's a lot of people that I've heard say, oh, I quit using those whenever I got like 60 agility. Like, they just weren't keeping up with how quickly I wanted to train, and like it kind of fell off. So that's a pretty easy way to balance equilibrium. You could just make it not that good, I guess. Just, oh man, the XP is too crazy. What do we do? Oh, well, we'll just make it not that great. Oh, okay. And then the third and final theory. This one is my personal leading one. It's pretty out there, so you're gonna have to give me a minute to explain everything. And I need to give some context. Xeric's Wisdom was a tier 5 relic in Twisted League. Players receive double the usual amount of experience from all skills. This stacks with any existing experience multipliers. That one, kinda big. Then Trailblazer League had Equilibrium. Each time the player gains experience, they will gain additional experience equal to 10% of the player's total level. Additional experience given by this relic is not multiplied by the XP multiplier. And if you use it with Production Master, which makes all your stuff at once, like if you have an inventory full of gems and you go to chisel it, it instantly does it. Each item does trigger that. League's 3 Shattered Relics did not have it. We don't talk about that league. I'm just kidding. It was fine, but it didn't have it, actually. But Trailblazer Reloaded actually had something very similar, and it was called Equilibrium, and it was a tier 6 relic. Each time the player gains experience, they will gain additional experience equal to 10% of the player's total level across all skills, which is increased to 20% when training the skill the player has the least XP in. This does not work with the XP multiplier, and it does work with Production Prodigy. So after all of that, where does this lead us? What is the new Equilibrium going to look like? Well, I think it's going to look something like this mock-up I made for the page. Equilibrium is a tier 6 relic in the Raging Echoes League, giving the following benefits. Each time the player gains experience, they will gain additional experience equal to 10% of the... Yeah, it's exactly the same. I think they're literally just going to do the same thing. I don't think they're going to mess with it at all. I don't think that they are hiding anything and they're being really secretive and they want you to speculate. And I think they just don't care. I think it's going to be the same thing. It's been the same thing twice already. And I don't see why they would change it, really. I'm not saying they can't, or they shouldn't, or they won't. But if I had to like bet money on what I think they're going to do, I think they would just leave it alone. I hope all you new League fans learned a little bit of history from this video. You probably didn't learn anything groundbreaking about this league, unfortunately. But I can also teach you where the subscribe button is. It's right below the video. If you want to hit that button, I'm gonna make more Leagues videos. Some of them will actually be real things that we'll talk about. Like, not that this is fake. I think they're actually gonna do Equilibrium. It is a prediction. It is still something useful. I made that graphic, okay? That wasn't easy. But you know what I mean. I didn't blow your mind. But there are a few videos that I've had like actually really good discussions on during Leagues, and I really hope that I can get you guys to come into the conversation if you haven't already. Tell me your regions. Tell me what sort of combos you're thinking about. I feel like there's a few recurring people I see show up that are like, oh my gosh, this, I didn't even think about the way you had this laid out. Now I'm gonna have to change my plans, or now I need to go to this area first, which is really fun, especially because there's a lot of things that you guys have been pointing out for me that I've been like, oh my gosh, underwater thieving and agility. I didn't think of that at all. And now I'm like, oh no, I gotta rethink all my strategy. But it's a good thing. And I hope you'll see the next one. And until then, take care. Goodbye.